Okay, shalom. Today's chabura is the Chida on contradictions between the Beit Yosef and the Shulchan Aruch. Let me just mention two things in general. First of all, we were doing until the end of last summer, I guess, until before summer we were doing the Minchas Asher, and then I think it was Ella we began doing the Achronim Chabura. Today will be a meeting of both of them. It's going to be an article from the Minchas Asher about this topic, where the key player is the Chida. Now, I was thinking about when a person contradicts himself, and I just remembered where I went for an eye test, and the person who was giving me the test and checking out kept on asking questions like, does this look better? When we got to a certain point, does this look better or does this look better? And then again, and now, does this look better and does this look better? At a certain point, they were very frustrated when they said, you're contradicting yourself. And so they were switching the order on me, and they found that I had been giving contradictory answers to the questions. We do find that people contradict themselves in their own svarim. The question is, what do we do with that when we find contradictions within a Sofer? So with the Rambam, there is like a vast literature resolving the seeming contradictions in the Rambam. The Gemara is full of seeming contradictions between sources and the resolutions to those contradictions. Now, we also, though, have a phenomenon of people who clearly retracted. The Rambam in a number of places, and he says this. Again, I would have to go collect the sources, but we know cases. For instance, if you look in the Rambam Perusha Mishnayos, the edition of Rav Kavach. So the Rambam throughout his life was revising his material, and you see that the Rambam changed his mind on certain things. You see in the Gemara often enough, for instance, v'chazru Beis Hillel l'dun gebeis Shammai, where Beis Hillel retracted their own approach, and they adopted the approach of Beit Shammai, and that's not uncommon. The question is, what do we do when there's a contradiction between the Beit Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Karo's commentary on the Torah, and the Shulchan Aruch, which is Rabbi Yosef Karo's halachic book? Now, just a little word about Rabbi Yosef Karo. Rabbi Yosef Karo has a number of monumental works. His Kesef Mishnah commentary on the Rambam, his Beit Yosef commentary on the Torah, and the Beit Yosef is taking every halacha in the Torah, showing its sources in the Gemara and Rishonim, in addition mentioning other shitos Rishonim that come up, and then finally coming up to a halacha conclusion. The Beit Yosef is an amazing work in its clarity, meaning if you learn a sugya in the Gemara well, with Rishonim, and then you start going through, what is the Rambam Paskin, what is the Rif Paskin, what is the Rosh Paskin, and finally you get to the Torah. When you learn the Beit Yosef, so everything is so clear, straightforward. Now, the Rabbi Yosef Karo also wrote a Sofer called Shulchan Aruch, which was the halacha conclusions. Seemingly, the halacha conclusions that come out of the Beit Yosef, and it became, along with Rabbi Yosef Moshe Isserlis's mapa, the table and the tablecloth. So those two became the main source of practical halacha from that generation onwards. And it wasn't accepted in the way the Gemara was accepted. It took a number of generations, and there were a number of the early generations after the Shulchan Aruch. So there were times when the Achronim did not agree with what the Shulchan Aruch said. But after that, the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah are the source of halacha for all of Klal Yisrael. The question is, what happens when there seems to be a contradiction between what appears in the Beit Yosef and what appears in the Shulchan Aruch? Now, just a word of something that I saw that I want to share with you. There is a Torah database called Otzar HaChochma. Otzar HaChochma is arguably one of the most well-developed Torah databases around. It is a for-profit organization, meaning it is not a like for instance HebrewBooks.org is a non-for-profit organization where it takes books that are in the public domain or books that people allow them to upload and places them before the public, where the books are all scanned in and searchable and tremendous resource. There's another thing called Otzar HaChochma where it's a paid service, and they have new versions of the greatest Torah books. They're up to 100,000, over 100,000 books, and like tons of great Sforim. Now, they have, because it's such a great resource, there's like a whole community of users. There's something they call the Forum Otzar HaChochma, where there's all of these very interesting users who are researching sometimes obscure and sometimes central Torah topics. And there is a thread on this topic of contradictions between the Shulchan Aruch and the Beit Yosef. And there was one fellow there who was contending that in a very strong way that there are no contradictions between the Beit Yosef and the Shulchan Aruch, and everything can be resolved. And so to speak, the rest of the readers ganged up on him, and they started quoting Gedolei Achronim from all the generations who talk about situations where the Shulchan Aruch retracted from what he said in the Beit Yosef. And Chazarbo, about what he wrote in the Beit Yosef, and these are people like the Shach and the Gaon and the Chazon Ish, etc. So now we're going to see what the Chida says. The article is Rav Asher Weiss's article. It's from Minchas Asher. Binyan stirot sheben Beit Yosef LaShulchan Aruch uvedin bedikot shiva nekim. Now, it's about the topic of contradictions between the Beit Yosef and the Shulchan Aruch, but the place where it plays itself out is a particular halacha in to what extent, what kind of bedikas does a woman have to do when she's checking shiva nekim, and about that particular topic, there's a contradiction, seeming contradictions. Now, here are just two straightforward examples of contradictions between the Beit Yosef and the Shulchan Aruch. In Hilchos Shabbos, so the Beit Yosef brings that there are those who are stringent about closing a box that might have flies in it because of the Malach of Tzeda. In the Shulchan Aruch, he doesn't bring the Shita. And the Ramah wrote to be lenient. Another example, Hilchos Malicha, what about salting meat without previously washing it? So in the Beit Yosef, so he writes that b'diavad, if somebody did this, one can be lenient, A, if there's a large loss, hefsed merubah, or it's Erev Shabbos, and you need it for Shabbos meal, or Litzorach Orchim, meaning three conditions or three possible situations where you could be lenient b'diavad. In the Shulchan Aruch, he just wrote b'diavad, it's okay. And he didn't write all the conditions. Okay, those are examples where there are either things that are not brought, or things that are brought in a way that might imply that the halacha is otherwise. So what do you do in those kind of situations? So the Chida is one of those who writes about this topic in quite a few places. Again, the Chida was so prolific. And so it's very likely that whatever he writes about, he's going to write about in a number of places. But Nitamea, the Meshave Svara Tari, Echad Amyuchad Migdolei Rishonim, Daloki Hilchasa, Nilcha Karila, Yasira Migvira, Baraki Chida. Okay. Okay, here's the thing. Whatever halacha he was talking about there in that tshuva, I think it was something about mezuzah, if I'm not mistaken. So let me just pull out my pointer. So here, Umaran Beit Yosef, Umarenu Rav Moshe B'darkei Moshe, V'Rav Madani Melech Katvu B'Stam Below Rav Wala. They wrote a particular halacha. And if you will say, if so, Amay Maran Hishmit Dat Ri B'Shulchan Aruch, this particular shita in the Rishonim, why was it left out of the Shulchan Aruch? Megam Moreinu Rav Moshe Lo Avio, and it's not brought in the Ramah. Shamana V'Atadalacha the Kamadinim Muskamim Hishmitim B'Shulchan Aruch. There are a number of halachas that were left out of the Shulchan Aruch. V'Kach Katav Rav Gadol Moreinu Rav Gavril Is Parnasa. Zecher l'chalam haba b'tshuva ktav yad in a manuscript. The einech reya me'ashulchan aruch the shmit din echad mikama dinim muskamin. You can't, if he left something out, so one cannot. That is not itself decisive. In a Rav Kotvam, don't worry if he doesn't write them. V'samich le'b'masha katvam b'Beit Yosef. He relied on the fact that he wrote them in the Beit Yosef. In other words, if you see that something's left out, so it could be just he relied on the fact that it was in the Beit Yosef. I wrote about this. Why does he rely on those particular dinim rather than any other dinim in the Shulchan Aruch? In other words, he wrote a Shulchan Aruch, and those dinim that are in the Shulchan Aruch are in the Beit Yosef. So why do you say every now and then, oh, you relied on what he wrote in the Beit Yosef? Everything in the Shulchan Aruch is from the Beit Yosef. So it's a very difficult svara of what that Sofer wrote. V'atanya tevadai kavanat harav nizkar hu shedinei hagmara v'harambam mechayotzim meviim b'Shulchan Aruch. Omnam hadinim hamechudashim zimnim dehu zal mashmit mehen. V'nir dezeh dvar hashmita tachat shalosh. Okay. The Chida very often writes in his poetic style. So he's writing, this is the reason why he left out. He's playing words on Shemitah. This is the reason why he left things out. O she'adinahu afshehu muskam hu mitziut rachok. It's a rare din. And so even though it's an agreed upon halacha, but it's rare. Oshu pashut, or it's obvious. Oshu kalul v'nimad me'ikar hadin shekatav b'Shulchan Aruch. Or it can be extrapolated from another halacha that is written in the Shulchan Aruch. In other words, don't get all bent out of shape if you don't see something that was written about in the Beit Yosef and it's not written about in the Shulchan Aruch. There are explanations for it. It might just be a halacha that is a rare halacha, so there was no need to put it in. It might be a halacha that is obvious, or it might be a halacha that is included in another halacha. Now, possibility one, it was a rare case, so he didn't need a need to bring it. Fine. It was obvious. Now, Rav Asher Weiss raises difficulties with this possibility because we see many times that the Shulchan Aruch, that there were things that the Beit Yosef says is an obvious din, and yet he does bring it in the Shulchan Aruch. So what is this that things that are simple were not brought? So this is a little bit difficult. Now, the fourth approach, of course, is that Rav Yosef Karo retracted his approach that he had in the Beit Yosef. The Chida mentions the same topic in a number of places. Rav Asher Weiss counts 6 places where he mentions it. Here's another one of them. The Perusham b'Shulchan Aruch neged dvarav b'Beit Yosef or b'kama makom or b'Kesem Mishnah. Excuse me. That there are times when Achronim establish that what the Shulchan Aruch says is in a way that it ends up being different than it wasn't than the Rabbi Yosef Karo himself wrote in the Beit Yosef or the Kesem Mishnah. Ata emet agid shekasher asakti be'eze inyanim. Nisbar libi b'kibi. Now, see, that's his poetic language. It's a play on words. My heart was broken within me, but it's also, I explained it within myself. The efshar ki maran basato Shulchan Aruch ruach al panav yachlof beruach mishpat uberuach ba'er. Again, this is all play on words of a verse in Tanakh. When the Shulchan Aruch when he got to writing the Shulchan Aruch, so he changed his approach. And he retracted the approach that he had in the Beit Yosef. And later on, he changed his mind. And according to that, he goes back. According to that, you can. I think he means. You can, I'm not sure what that word means. My apologies. I guess you could respond with, I'm not sure. Avduri Uvdar Kitve Kodesh, Venevdu Kama Kuntrasin Kamoshinur Me'aktama. And we'll speak about this in a little while, but there's another work that the Beit Yosef wrote. And this seems to be his own edits on the Beit Yosef, which he calls Bedek Habayit, which is a play on words. Bedek Habayit is repairing the house. Checking out the house to see if there were any problems. So in an edition of the Beit Yosef, you can see every now and then Bedek Habayit there within the Beit Yosef. Now the thing is, he writes that apparently there was material that was in the Bedek Habayit but was lost. So it could be that there was things in the Bedek Habayit that would explain changes. Now. This is the Chida clearly saying that it is very likely that Rav Yosef Karo retracted his approach in the Beit Yosef, and he wrote it in the Shulchan Aruch differently. Now, what Rav Yosef, what the Chida said was not. Excuse me. The Chida takes 2 positions. Number one, that the Rabbi Yosef Karo either retracted or had a good reason to leave something out in the Shulchan Aruch, but also that when you have that phenomenon, you go after the Shulchan Aruch. However, there were those who disagreed. He quotes somebody in this tshuva here of Yosef Ometz Samach Tes. So there were those that said that you go after the Beit Yosef. Anyone knows that the pasuk b'Beit Yosef u pasuk b'Shulchan Aruch, avalacha the b'Beit Yosef lo yesh cholek v'ani ra shesatam lehefach b'Shulchan Aruch einu b'chlal. Here's a different story. Here he's paskening differently. V'ikar dedina pircha yesh lefakbek b'chlal zeh dekama milim metukanim b'Shulchan Aruch. וכתבנו כמה זמני דאחר כך, מרן חזר בו בהיות המחבר השולחן ערוך, ואחר זמן רב ראיתי שכן כתב הגאון רב שו"ת יעקב, In other words, number one, the Shulchan Aruch retracted. Number two, we rule like the Shulchan Aruch. Now, according to the author of the Knesset Hagdola, which I forget his name now, he wrote the Shulchan Aruch even after the Bedek Habayit. He fixed up a number of things, and it's like the second edition. And we know that there are a number of pamphlets, a number of sections of the Bedek Habayit that were left out. Like Rabbi Yosef Karo's son wrote. If the Shulchan Aruch writes something that's the opposite of the Beit Yosef, so most of the time we're going to be going after the Shulchan Aruch. And the assumption is that in the Bedek Habayit he wrote that also. Just a second. Yeah, also the Chida. So far everything's the Chida. Chida wrote, there's different counts because sometimes they counted the same Sfarim twice in the list, but like 70 plus Sfarim. So Machzik Bracha Yosef Ometz, his commentary on the Shulchan Aruch is called Birkei Yosef. The Shema Gedolim also has something on it, but I didn't even bring it. So in other words, he probably, this is what the conjecture of the Chida is, that he probably went over the Beit Yosef, and in his Bedek Habayit corrected anything that might have been that he might have changed his mind about. And for now, this is enough. Now, up until now, just to summarize, the general position of the Chida, as appears in 5 or 6 places, we saw 3 or 4 of them, is that very often the Shulchan Aruch, when he later on wrote the Shulchan Aruch, he retracted what he wrote in the Beit Yosef. There are certain situations where it doesn't seem like it's the same, but there are reasons. Something didn't need to be said, something was a rare case, something was included in another halacha. But number one, the Shulchan Aruch does retract what he said in the Beit Yosef, and number two, we rule like the Shulchan Aruch. Now, here I just want to point out, the Chida is a unique position as being both a posek and a historian and a bibliographer. So we'll see why it's relevant here. Now, we're back to the Minchas Asher. Sorry for flitting back and forth, but there's the source material that I sent you as an attachment to the email is Rav Asher Weiss's tshuva about a certain a fine point in Hilchos Bedikas of Shimon Akim, but it's the springboard for dealing with this whole topic of what happens when the Shulchan Aruch is different than the Beit Yosef. And Rav Asher Weiss brings 2 major approaches to how to deal with that. The big first major approach is that of the Chida, that we give preference to the Shulchan Aruch. Now, Rav Asher Weiss has a chakira. We have to look into this. What's the reason? He's he also speaks important language, that he set up his table, the Shulchan Aruch, after he built his house, that's the Beit Yosef, and the halacha is like the later book, and like the Chida wrote in his Shilos and Tshuvos, Shelotu Tshuvot, Yosef Ometz. Okay, so that's one approach. We do find this, that we paskin like the later approach. We have an interesting thing, that within Amoraim, we paskin like the later Amoraim, above the earlier Amorai, which is interesting, with the idea that the later Amoraim, they saw all the ideas that were presented by the early Amoraim, and they were able to make a decision after everything played itself out. Here, we're talking about within one person, that we paskin like the later Rabbi Yosef Karo over the earlier Yosef Karo. It would be a similar thing, let's say, with the Rambam. The Rambam, let's say there was a psak that he made in the Perush Mishnayos, and then he made it he made something else in the Mishnah Torah, and then let's say, I'm just making this up, let's say somebody wrote him a letter and corrected what he said in the Mishnah Torah, and Rabbi Yosef and the Rambam himself retracted it in a tshuva, which is clearly afterwards. So we would assume that you would rule like the later Rambam over the earlier Rambam, because the Rambam himself thought everything out. And that's one direction. O Shema, but perhaps mishum erko haskuli shel Shulchan Aruch da'ave hilchot hapsikta. There might be some special. Now, skuli is there's something unique and special about the Shulchan Aruch, a special quality that and it sounds like a special siyata dishmaya or special divine assistance that was given for the Shulchan Aruch, which was the book of Psak Halacha for all generations. Because of that, it becomes a weightier book. So these are two different approaches to why we paskin like the Shulchan Aruch above the Beit Yosef, as opposed to the Beit Yosef. Either number one, because it's later, or number two, because there was some special siyata d'shmaya, some special divine assistance in writing the Shulchan Aruch itself. So now here's two different, Rav Yonatan and Eibeshutz, and then the Chatam Sofer each writes something about the Shulchan Aruch which is glowing, which implies that there's something to it that is simply beyond. Again, this is all Rav Asher Weiss in his article. This is Rav Yonatan and Eibeshutz b'yachasutam l'divrei Shulchan Aruch shekatav. He wrote, when he relates to the Shulchan Aruch, and he writes as follows: that there's no doubt that everything came from God, from the hand of God. They were very successful. They were able to have this special understanding in the now El Yadam. There is the Shulchan Aruch and Ramah together. Ki kushiyot rabot sheikshu aleim achronim. The achronim ask all sorts of kashas. V'tertzu b'derech harif yamok, and they answered in a very sharp and deep way. Meaning, there was something that ended up revealing to be so clear and deep and truthful. With their sweet and concise formulations, they included so many dinim. There's no doubt that they didn't consciously, I am adding the word consciously, intend for all of this. How is this possible? How is this humanly possible? Because of all of the work that they had to do this. And who is it that would be able to create a work that was based on all the works of all the things said by the Rishonim and the Achronim, and it wouldn't be too difficult for him to do this heavenly work? Rak. Now, so Elamai, he did write the Beit Yosef and the Shulchan Aruch. Rak. Now again, Ruach Hashem nosesa b'kirbam. There was a divine spirit that was hovering over it. I guess that's what it means. Liot leshonam mechuvan lahalacha. That their words were directed to be halacha l'maisa, bali kavanata kotev, even without the conscious intent of the writer. V'chefetz Hashem b'yadam hitzliach, and Hashem's desire, Hashem's will, was successful in their hands. Now, he seems to be saying this about the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah, and not necessarily about the Beit Yosef. Sofer. Beit Yosef lo kivein lasa. Now, he's saying something in a tshuva, and even though possibly the Beit Yosef didn't intend this, yeah, that possibly, what you saw what David wrote, that I'm just reading your comment. How important in weighing the weight of the Shulchan Aruch is the fact that the Machaber drew from the psak of the three majors, the Rambam, Rav Fasi, right, the Rif, and the Rosh. So that probably is the power of the Sofer, that you get there's the sense that he was coming to the consensus of the period of the Rishonim by taking these three pillars. Yeah, I hear. Meaning that's again here the issue. By the way, the issue is there's two issues going on here. One is an issue that the local issue that we're dealing with, Shulchan Aruch versus the Beit Yosef. But there is something I think that is hovering over this whole shir, and that is that the Shulchan Aruch combined with the Ramah became such an authoritative work in an unbelievable way. I mean, for all generations, and so that's possibly why, because it was, in a way, the summary of the period of the Rishonim. It's a good suggestion. Wait, I'm giving away the punchline here. Chatam Sofer. Maybe the Beit Yosef didn't intend this. God had it work through his hands. That the language that he wrote with his pen was so sweet, meaning perfect. That tzaddik was saved from that mistake. That's the way of the giver of the Torah may be blessed, with all those who are involved with this Torah, lishma, for its own sake. Lahachit tachat loshon kol mosam, to how would you translate that? Not sure, but that through that their pen ends up writing something that's true. We are saved from mistakes. And even though it might be like slightly forced, but no mistake should come out from our hands. B'kitzur, that's the main thing here, is that he is also saying that Rav Yosef Karo had special siyata d'ishmaya in the writing of the Shulchan Aruch. The only thing is this might also apply to the Beit Yosef. Anyways, what's the Nafka Mina? Whether the Shulchan Aruch itself had a special divine assistance that maybe even the Beit Yosef didn't have, or the Shulchan Aruch was written latest. Well, that book, the Bedek Habayit, when was the Bedek Habayit written? And that's an issue that the Chida, the historian and the bibliographer, dealt with. The Nafka Mina ben Shtei Drachim Elegant, this is Rav Asher Weiss. The practical difference between these two approaches, what makes the Shulchan Aruch so decisive, is it because it's later or because it's special? Mashurat adin kasher divrei Shulchan Aruch sotrim et shekatava Beit Yosef Bedek Habayit. What do we do when there's a stira between the Shulchan Aruch and the Bedek Habayit? In the Sofer Eliyahu Rabbah, it's well known what he wrote. Beit Yosef arachet Bedek Habayit b'sof yamav le'achar sheishlim et Shulchan Aruch. So it comes out that he wrote Beit Yosef, Shulchan Aruch, then Bedek Habayit. So, Vim Tomar de Lolam Hilchot HaKavatra, if you say the halacha is like the later approach, even within a person, what he eventually concludes, the halacha kesof tavarav mishum shechazer bo mimash katuv lifneichen, and we paskin like his final words against what he said earlier. Ken yesh lifso kamosh katuv bedek habayit. Then it would follow that the bedek habayit has more weight than the Shulchan Aruch. Achim nomer she'halacha keshulchan aruch mishum erko askuli shel Shulchan Aruch halacha kamoto af neged bedek habayit. But if you say that the Shulchan Aruch, because it was that halachic, the book of halachic decisions that was given special divine assistance, so then that would take precedence even over the Bedek Habayit. By the way, there are contradictions, seeming contradictions between the Bedek Habayit and the Shulchan Aruch. One of them is, in the Bedek Habayit, he brings from the Zohar that one should not make any sound while he's saying Shemona Esrei, whereas in the Shulchan Aruch he writes that lechatchila you should be able to hear with your ears what you're saying with your mouth when you're davening quietly. There's a halacha called Nat Bar Nat Dehetera, where which in the Bedek Habayit he says lechatchila. One can be lenient about that halacha, and in the Shulchan Aruch it's only b'diavad. So those are two examples he brings where there's contradictions between the Bedek Habayit and the Shulchan Aruch. Comment. Yeah, the thing about the Malach, now just what David's referring to, there was a Malach called a Magid that taught the Shulchan Aruch, and he wrote up the mystical revelations he had in the Sefer Magid Misharim. This was part of the Beit Yosef, the Rabbi Yosef Karo being a great. I know that he appeared on the famous Tikkun Leil Shavuot, where Rabbi Yosef Karo and a number of other friends were together, and they were learning all night. And through the Mishnayos, it was a malach that was created from the Mishnayos that Rabbi Yosef Karo would learn. Rabbi Yosef Karo was learning all the Mishnayos by heart constantly, and there was a malach that came out of it. Now, as far as I know, he was giving him moral direction, but as far as I know, that's not. As far as I know, again, you would have to. I know Rav Reuven Margolius wrote on this topic. That wouldn't impact his halachic rulings. As far as I know, I don't know. Good question. But if you're interested in the topic on when our mystical assistance with halachic works, that topic, it is written about by Rav Reuven Margoliot in his introduction to what is referred to as Shelot Utshuvot Min HaShamayim, which is literally questions and answers from heaven, where there was one of the Bali Tosfos. It was not Rabbeinu Tam, but his name was Rabbeinu Yaakov. There was one of the Bali Tosfos that asked questions of a malach in a dream, and they are recorded in a sefer called Shelot Utshuvot Min HaShamayim. And the introduction of Rav Reuven Margolius's edition of Shelot Utshuvot Min HaShamayim has a discussion of when mystical material is relevant in halachic sources. So I don't know the answer, but I know where you can find the answer to this question. Now, the Chida himself had different. This is interesting because the Chida has different approaches within his Sfarim on when the Bedek Habayit was written vis-a-vis as opposed to the Shulchan Aruch. In the Shema Gedolim, So he agrees with the Eliyahu Rabbah that the Bedek Habayit was written at the very end. But in the Birkei Yosef, he wrote that the Shulchan Aruch was written at the very end after the Bedek Habayit, and he brings that in the Sofer, and he quotes the Sofer Knesset Hagdola. So according to that, the halacha will end up being the Shulchan Aruch no matter what, because it's the very last, and it has the Skuliya. So this is interesting because here's an example of the Chida himself retracting his position in articles about the Shulchan Aruch retracting his position. So that's fascinating. Okay, so this is a retraction about the topic of retraction. Now, there is another direction in the Achronim, and that is that the Beit Yosef has preference over the Shulchan Aruch. Here he quotes the Chikrei Lev, which I apologize, I don't know what the author's name is. Klal Gadol she'ikar chibur shel Maran al Beit Yosef yesh li smoch v'lo al Sefer HaKatzar. He calls the Shulchan Aruch Sefer HaKatzar, the small work. Now there are two reasons given to this. Number one is a Sefer Chaim Shnayim Yishalem, and he writes something astounding, and that is that the Shulchan Aruch, Rav Yosef Karo, had Talmidim write the Shulchan Aruch. So that's one thing. And there's a parallel. There are those so the Chavetz Chaim's son writes that there was Talmidim that were involved in the Mishnah Brura. The only thing is, the Chavetz Chaim's son wants to suggest that that's a way of resolving the fact that there are contradictions within the Mishnah Brura, that it's from different sub-authors. Rav Asher Weiss is not enthusiastic about this whole direction that the Shulchan Aruch is less reliable, or the Chavetz Chaim is less reliable because it was written by Talmidim. He says, how is it possible they would present this as their own work if it wasn't their own work? The Chavetz Chaim, the Shulchan Aruch, this is a very hard to digest type of approach. There is another one, Rav Shmuel Vital, I think, who writes that Rav Yosef Karo wrote the Shulchan Aruch when he was young. He was 24, and everything is correct there. He wrote the Beit Yosef when he was 24. When he was young. Sefer Shulchan Aruch hasol beziknuto v'sof yamav shekvar ashikha v'yadid. And he wrote the Shulchan Aruch when he was older, and there already forgetfulness and old age overtook him. He wrote it very quickly. He didn't look into it so well. Now these are very, and he says sometimes it contradicts each other, contradicts itself. This is very, very, these two things are very like offbeat and they seem very unlikely to us. Rav Asher Weiss. I'm just quoting Rav Asher Weiss here, and he says, "Uvemet mashma." This is again a summary. Uvemet mashma mihakdamata Beit Yosef l'Shulchan Aruch she'achen ro'y lismoch b'chol ha'ora l'maisa sefer zeh lelo kol tzorach livdok alayin b'Beit Yosef. From the introduction of the Beit Yosef to the Shulchan Aruch, it seems that you should be able to rely on the Shulchan Aruch without necessarily having to check everything in the Beit Yosef. Everybody's sitting on this table, at this table, everybody is eating of its bread, and that's the way he concludes. As we see two different approaches in the Achronim, in the Gedolei Adoros, how to relate to these steers between the Beit Yosef and the Shulchan Aruch. There are those they say follow the Shulchan Aruch. There are those who say to prefer the Beit Yosef. He says, "Lani odati yeshin kol bevero kishidat Chida ve'ben ish chai." We didn't quote that, but he also has in a tshuva on this. Dim yesh makom lahasbir li hashevet divrei ba'ofen shelo yisteru elu et elu roi lefaresh. So the best thing, of course, is to see that they're resolved, that there's no stira. Achim neres stira b'mefurash o b'satum. If there is either an explicit or an implicit contradiction, the Shulchan Aruch Ikar michad v'trei taima kemavur. The Shulchan Aruch is the main decisive book, either because it's later or because of its special status as a unique book with special siyata d'shmaya. Uve'emet divrei notnim et mishpat habachora leBeit Yosef v'lo leShulchan Aruch tmuim v'rechokim kamavur. It's very difficult, those approaches, either that because he wrote it when he was older or that his Talmidim wrote it. Those are very hard to digest types of approaches. That was the approach. That was what I wanted to share with you today.